on today's episode of Wyatt's World Extra, we will be going over 10 WWE wrestling matches that almost happened but never did. And for the record, I am not talking dream matches like this, or even like this. I'm talking about matches that actually had stories written, that actually had seeds planted. I'm talking about matches that were literally penciled in on pay-per-view cards, but we just never got to see them. Anyway, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another Wyatt's World Extra WWE video. Like I just explained today, I'm gonna be going over 10 matches with you guys that nearly happened, but didn't. Whether it was booking, an injury, a death, could be anything. One quick plug before we hop right into it. Head over to gfuel.com, use code WyattzWorld, save yourself a discount on any G Fuel products, and let's get into the video. So first match we got is Kurt Angle versus Sting at WrestleMania 18. Apparently this legitimately almost happened to the point where Sting actually agreed to work with Kurt and they had a story written out for these two to build into WrestleMania 18 for a iconic match. Unfortunately, Sting backed out of the entire plan though because he couldn't keep up with WWE's hectic schedule at the time. I'm sure for WWE's case, they just thought Sting was still in the shape where he could come out and compete and show up on a week-to-week basis. Well, that's something that only you can do if you're comfortable with it. If you're not comfortable, you're not comfortable. And it's unfortunate that that was the only way to make it happen, because I think we can all agree Sting versus Kurt Angle back in their primes would have been something we still talked about today. All right, next match we got is Eddie Guerrero versus Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 22, and damn. Now, obviously this match didn't happen because Eddie Guerrero passed away before WrestleMania 22, just before it. However, before Eddie's passing, he was supposed to win the world title from Batista, and the plans were allegedly for Eddie to carry that belt all the way to WrestleMania where Shawn Michaels would win the Royal Rumble and challenge him. But it never got to happen. That's a big kick in the gut because it's two of the greatest of all time. And for those wondering what happened instead since Eddie passed, well, then Rey Mysterio was given the Royal Rumble victory, where he would then go on to WrestleMania 22 to win the world title in a triple threat match in Eddie's honor. Still a great moment, but I gotta believe Shawn and Eddie would have been a little bit better. And that'll bring us to CM Punk versus Triple H at WrestleMania 30. Now, I know this match previously did happen, we just talked about it, the wrong person won, Triple H, but this was years later. And this was also at WrestleMania, a match that would have helped headline the show. What happened to it, may you ask? Well, that's when CM Punk quit the WWE. It's when he walked out. Both CM Punk and Triple H have said in interviews that Punk was scheduled to go over in the event. He was going to beat Triple H, but that wasn't good enough for him. CM Punk was a guy who constantly just wanted to be in the main event. He wanted to be in the title picture. He wanted to be him. He was also treated terribly by medical staff and lied to when they told him he wasn't injured when he actually was, so I get him for being upset about that. CM Punk's last match in the WWE would have been the Royal Rumble 2014, which was right before WrestleMania 30. He was feuding with the Authority at the time. And then the next day, he would walk into Raw, go to Vince McMahon, and tell him that he quits, and we haven't seen him on WWE TV since. Now, I guess it's kind of a blessing in disguise because we got to see the whole Yes Movement thing because of it. We got to see Triple H versus Daniel Bryan because of it. Daniel Bryan honestly might not have ever had that WrestleMania moment if it wasn't for Punk leaving, but we still never got to see Triple H versus CM Punk 2. Okay, now we're on to the Undertaker versus Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania 26. Yeah, he was actually scheduled to have two other matches before Shawn. One of them was Drew McIntyre. You know, this was obviously off the whole chosen one gimmick he had. He was gonna be the one to possibly end the streak. There was talks of him doing it, there was talks of him losing, but Drew came forth and said he wasn't ready for a match that big yet. So, WWE then entertained Ted DiBiase Jr. versus The Undertaker, where they did actually at one point think about having Ted end the streak. Now that would have actually made sense because Ted DiBiase Sr. was the one who introduced The Undertaker, therefore Jr. was the one to put him down. Well, thank God that didn't happen either, and we got Taker versus Shawn 2 instead. Holy moly, okay, so every match so far I think I'm disappointed we didn't get to see. These two I'm happy I didn't get to see because neither of them were ready, considering one of them is a fucking criminal right now. And the other guy, well, Drew McIntyre could do a match now, but back then, he was one of the most boring characters on TV. So thanks for being honest with us at the time, Drew. And that brings us to Dean Ambrose versus Mick Foley at SummerSlam 2012. This would have been crazy because obviously it was supposed to be like a hardcore Extreme Rules match too. Apparently the reason this one didn't happen is because Dean was just way too intense with Mick Foley. He took it way too far with him. I guess Dean was attacking him on social media. He was showing up to Mick Foley's autograph signings and heckling him. He would also run Mick Foley down personally in promos, which, by the way, everything I just mentioned, including the autograph signings, Dean didn't tell Mick about any of that. Mick had no warning. So by the time that their feud was actually gonna hit, public television and they were gonna start their build to SummerSlam, Mick Foley was so pissed off with the company, he was so pissed off with Dean, that he said he had absolutely no interest in working with him anymore and he pulled out. It's crazy to me because Mick Foley seems like a pretty good worker. He seems like a guy who also likes to stick to kayfabe. So if Dean was actually getting under his skin to the point where he didn't want to work with him, he must have been pretty fucking annoying. All right, next match we got is Stone Cold versus Brock Lesnar, the match everybody wanted to see and the match nobody got. This one's actually pretty easy to understand why you'd be upset if you were Stone Cold. So basically, WWE wanted to have Stone Cold and Brock Lesnar fight without any build, without any rivalry, without any sort of warning. They wanted this to be a one-off qualifying match for the King of the Ring. Okay, so when Stone Cold heard that, he laughed in their faces. He said, absolutely not, that's not happening. He said if they were gonna have a match with each other, they were gonna do it right. This was gonna be a long story. It was gonna be a build-up to probably WrestleMania where they were gonna do it right. It was gonna be a mega match. WWE couldn't agree to that, so Stone Cold refused to wrestle Brock at the King of the Ring, and therefore we never got to actually see the match because 2 months later, not only was Brock out of the company, but Stone Cold left as well. There was a really weird time around 2002 to 2005 where Stone Cold, Brock Lesnar, and Goldberg, I'm pretty sure, all hated the WWE. The only reason I bring Goldberg into that is because Stone Cold's special guest reffed the match between him and Brock, which was the exit for all three of them. All right, sticking on the Stone Cold train, we got Stone Cold versus Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 18. Boy, WrestleMania 18 was still pretty good for how great it could have been, honestly. The reason this one didn't happen was booking. Both superstars wanted it, but WWE also wanted both matches. They wanted Hogan Rock, they wanted Hogan Austin. Okay, so obviously they went with Hogan Rock. Stone Cold fought, I think, Scott Hall. They both got their matches, but after that WrestleMania, the writers were just never able to come up with a proper storyline and scheme to introduce Stone Cold versus Hulk Hogan. And then, since WWE plans well in advance for their big matches and storylines, by the time SummerSlam rolled around, they had already had Hogan and Vince McMahon penciled in for WrestleMania 19, which gave us Rock versus Austin 3. Nobody's complaining about it, but can you imagine if we did get to see Stone Cold versus Hulk Hogan just one time? Maybe we did way back in the Attitude Era, I just don't recall it. All right, now we're on to a fun one that I really wish we would have gotten to see. It was Umaga versus all 9 members of Jackass at SummerSlam 2007, I believe. Dude, that match would have been hilarious, and Umaga already had a segment where he was beating the shit out of the Wild Boys, which was Steve-O and Chris Pontius, or whatever his last name was. But this didn't happen, sadly, because of Chris Benoit. From everything that I've read about this match, when Chris Benoit's tragedy happened with, him and his family, not only did him and CM Punk's match get scrapped from, I believe it was Vengeance, but that made Johnny Knoxville pull out of the Jackass match, and then the entire crew followed. Not sure, maybe it scared Knoxville into getting some CTE or something. Obviously, he came back years later. He fought Sami Zayn 2 years ago. But at the time, they were not comfortable going forth with the match, and we never got to see Umaga versus Jackass. All right, moving on, we got John Cena versus Triple H at WrestleMania 23. Yep, these guys were supposed to go back to back. For those who don't remember, Cena beat Triple H at WrestleMania 22. Then after that, Triple H and Shawn Michaels formed DX again, and they were in the middle of their run, where Triple H then would tear his rotator cuff in a match versus Rated RKO at New Year's Revolution, and he would miss the entire event. Not sure what was supposed to happen, if Triple H was supposed to win the Rumble, if DX was supposed to separate, I don't know. But him and Cena were supposed to main event and headline WrestleMania for 2 years in a row, and you gotta believe that Triple H was supposed to go over John Cena in this event because the said match number 2 that happened between these guys was eventually at Night of Champions 2009, I believe, where Triple H beat John Cena clean. So that further makes me believe that the outcome of WrestleMania 23 would have been Triple H standing tall. However, we didn't get to see it because he got hurt, and honestly, I think that one might have been for the better. I mean, Cena versus Shawn is an instant classic. We don't want to take that out of the history books. And finally, we've got John Cena versus Undertaker at WrestleMania 32, and I'm still pissed off to this day that we never got this. Man, did I want Cena versus Taker at WrestleMania. And we finally did get it 2 years later, but it was a terrible squash match. It wasn't the right one. This match could have delivered. This could have been an actual match, but John Cena, of all people, got hurt. Not only did this devastate Vince, but this shook up pretty much the whole card unless Vince did one thing, which is what he did. Bring in his fucking son to fight The Undertaker, because he wasn't gonna pull somebody else out of a match match and move things around. And no, Shane versus Taker wasn't bad, especially since it was in a cell, but it didn't help headline the pay-per-view like Vince had originally planned with John Cena and The Undertaker. This was seriously the last chance to give us this match with both of these two in okay shape. And I will give WWE credit for trying, but Big John's health couldn't hold up and we never got it. Alright guys, and that is gonna be it for 10 WWE matches that almost happened but never did. If I forgot any, please let me know in the comments. I would love to read about some. Anyway, I'm gonna try and get something on this channel non-WWE related before I bring back GM mode, but that should happen this week. So, with everything I just said, I'm gonna hop off and get this edited. Show me any support you can. You know I appreciate it. And with everything I just said, have a great rest of your day. I will see you in the next video.